The sun was setting over the bustling marketplace as the aroma of freshly baked bread and sizzling snacks filled the air. People walked past in a hurry, carrying bags of groceries, chatting and bargaining with street vendors. Amidst the crowd, a small, ragged boy clutched his empty stomach, his wide, hungry eyes fixed on a food stall piled high with warm, delicious treats. His mother, a frail woman with tired eyes and torn clothes, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just a little longer, my love," she said, trying to sound hopeful, though her heart ached with guilt. It had been days since they had a proper meal, and every time she promised things would get better, they only seemed to get worse. The boy nodded, but his hunger was unbearable. His tiny hands trembled as he slowly approached the stall, glancing back at his mother before reaching out and snatching a piece of bread from a stool. Without hesitation, he stuffed it into his mouth, savoring every bite, chewing as fast as he could. The stall owner, a stern-faced woman dressed in a fine sari, stood nearby, too busy on a phone call to notice the boy at first. But when she turned and saw him stealing from her stall, her expression darkened with fury. "Get your filthy hands off my food!" she shouted, rushing forward and shoving him away. The boy stumbled backward, choking slightly as he tried to swallow. His face burned with shame, and tears welled up in his eyes. The woman snatched the half-eaten bread from his hands and threw it into the trash with disgust. "Thieves like you should be punished," she hissed. Just then the boy's mother ran forward, grabbing him and pulling him close. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "Please, he was starving. We have nothing to eat." The stall owner sneered. "That's not my problem. Teach your son some manners." Without another word, she turned and stormed back inside her shop, leaving the mother and son humiliated in front of the staring crowd. But not everyone in the stall agreed with her cruelty. Moments later, the shop owner's young daughter, a kind-hearted girl with big brown eyes, quietly stepped out, clutching a small bag of food. She had watched everything from behind the counter, her heart aching for the poor boy. She looked over her shoulder to make sure her mother wasn't watching, then held out the bag. "Here," she whispered. "Take this." The boy hesitated at first, but his mother nudged him forward. He took the bag, his little hands gripping it tightly, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," his mother whispered, tears shining in her eyes. The girl smiled, then quickly hurried back inside before her mother could see. As the mother and son walked away, they turned and waved one last time. The boy, despite the cruelty he had just faced, smiled. Days later, fate took an unexpected turn. The shop owner was walking through a quieter street in the city, carrying a few shopping bags, her mind occupied with her business. The market had closed for the day, and the streets were mostly empty. Suddenly, two men appeared from the shadows. Before she could react, they lunged at her. One of them grabbed her arm, twisting it painfully as he snatched her phone. "Scream and you're dead!" the other man growled, flashing a knife under the dim streetlight. Fear clutched her throat. Her heart pounded wildly as she struggled, but they were too strong. "Take whatever you want, just don't hurt me," she pleaded. But they weren't just after her belongings. One of the men spotted her daughter a few steps behind her. "Grab the girl," he ordered. Her daughter screamed as they yanked her toward a car. "No, leave her alone!" the shop owner cried, desperately trying to fight them off. Just when all hope seemed lost, sirens blared through the night. Bright, flashing lights filled the street as police cars screeched to a halt, blocking the attackers' escape. "Drop the weapons!" officers shouted as they swarmed in, tackling the two men to the ground. The shop owner stood frozen, shaking in shock. How did they get here so fast?" she stammered. She hadn't called for help, and there was no one else nearby. Then she saw them, the homeless boy and his mother, standing on the other side of the street. It was them. They had seen everything and called the police. The same boy she had shoved away just days ago had now saved her life. The shop owner's lips trembled as she stepped toward them, her eyes filled with guilt and gratitude. You saved us," she whispered, her voice breaking. The boy looked up at his mother, who simply smiled. "Kindness always finds its way back," she said softly. Tears rolled down the shop owner's cheeks as she thought about the way she had treated them. She had thrown away his food, humiliated his mother, and turned them away without a second thought. And yet, despite everything, they had chosen to help her. From that day on, she changed. She invited the mother and son to her shop, offering them food and shelter whenever they needed it. She learned their names, listened to their struggles, and found ways to help them. The same stall where she had once shoved the boy away was now a place where he could eat without fear. Her daughter, who had always known the importance of kindness, smiled as she watched her mother finally understand. Because in the end, a single act of kindness, no matter how small, had the power to change everything. The shop owner didn't stop there. She went to the local authorities and helped the mother find a job, ensuring they had a steady income. She even arranged for the boy to attend a nearby school, knowing that education would give him a better future. As the days passed, the boy's laughter filled the shop, and his mother's face, once shadowed by hardship, now carried a newfound hope. The same woman who had once turned them away now treated them like family. The customers noticed the change, and soon the shop became a place not just for business, but for warmth and generosity. One evening, as the shop owner sat outside watching the sunset, the little boy ran up to her and hugged her tightly. "Thank you for everything," he said with a wide grin. Her heart swelled with emotion as she patted his head. "No, little one," she whispered, her eyes misty. "Thank you for teaching me what kindness really means." The boy's mother smiled from a distance, knowing that this was the start of a new chapter, not just for them, but for the shop owner as well. And from that moment on, she knew that kindness, once given, always had a way of coming back full circle,